A Madonna interview from 1983 has resurfaced, and its contents are disturbing, to say the least. Worse yet, they appear to be a pattern rather than an isolated incident. Trigger warning for this video, of course. It's very disgusting. In a section called Smooth Talking, I assume this website doesn't have the full interview present, or I don't know, maybe this is just what they looked like in the 80s. Madonna details what she loves most in men. Only problem is, she's not talking about men. She's talking about boys. Macho hunks with rippling muscles don't interest rising disco star Madonna. I prefer effeminate-looking men and young boys. She purrs. There are a lot of very sweet Puerto Rican boys where I live, and if it outrages people when we go out together, that's fine by me. Here, I would like to pause. Going through Reddit comments of another incredibly disturbing Madonna moment that we'll get to. The commenters were noting that while her words are repulsive, they were written in a fantasy book. It was claimed to be fiction. Others, because her brand was pushing the boundaries in an extremely conservative, misogynistic, prudish America, she was being knowingly shocking as a form of vintage rage bait. However, this is an interview, not the fantasy book she wrote. It is possible she was lying to rile people up, but we cannot say that for certain, and that doesn't make matters much better. Let's continue. 15 or 16-year-old boys are best, and I like smooth, thin men who aren't afraid to show their emotions and cry. I want to caress a nice smooth body, not a Hulk. Editor's note, if you'll allow it. 15 and 16-year-olds actually aren't men. They're little boys. They're children. You're publicly lusting after children at the age of 24. This interview released in late February of 1983. Her birthday is August 1958. She was a grown woman saying this. A grown woman well aware of the sexual predation rampant amongst men, especially as a young girl in the industry. I do not support all women. Some of you bitches are sickening. Fast forward 10 years. What I am about to say is alleged because I could not corroborate the images myself. The book doesn't show up in the Apple bookstore. I couldn't find it on the 7 Seas either. I only found images. Two Redditors share what they claim to be excerpts from Madonna's 1993 book simply titled Sex. The book begins with, "This book is about sex. Sex is not love. Love is not sex. But the best of both worlds is created when they come together. You can love God, you can love the planet, you can love the human race, and you can love all things, but the best way for human beings to show love is to love one another. It's the way we spread love through the universe one to one. Love is something we make. Pass it on. This book does not condone unsafe sex. These are fantasies I have dreamed up. Like most human beings, when I let my mind wander, when I let myself go, I rarely think of condoms. My fantasies take place in a perfect world, a place without AIDS. Unfortunately, the world is not perfect, and I know that condoms are not only necessary, but mandatory. Everything you are about to see and read is a fantasy, a dream, pretend." We don't need to read the entire thing. It's just not that important. In a vacuum, there's nothing wrong with this. Hopefully we can all agree with that. Human beings like sex. Sex doesn't have to have anything to do with love. It's a completely natural, instinctual act. We, especially women, should be free to just talk about that. However, the alleged fantasy that comes later in the book is no mere innocent fantasy. It's straight up. Sex with the young can be fun if you're in the mood. If you're feeling impatient or you feel like you want someone else to take charge, do not have sex with someone inexperienced. But it can be really arousing. One of the best experiences I ever had was with a teenage boy. I think he was a virgin. He hardly had any hair. He was Puerto Rican. He was uncircumcised. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say some of this. He lived in my building and he used to come over to my apartment all the time and just watch me put on my makeup and get ready to go out. He hung around me all the time. He never went to school, so I started giving him reading assignments. I'd have him read out loud, like Henry Miller's The Tropic of Cancer or something really arousing. Whenever he got ready to leave, he'd kiss me goodbye, but the kisses started getting more and more daring on his part and I just went with it. Then one day his parents kicked him out of his apartment and he wanted to know if he could spend the night at my house. I told him he could, but I only had one bed, so we both got in it and I couldn't sleep. So I had sex with him and it was really awesome because he was so young. And so, in wonderment of it all, he was fearless. He would do anything. He wasn't very big, he was just a baby. Madonna was 35 in 1993, in case you were wondering. When I read that part during my light research, I had just finished a whole pint of ice cream. The face I made, I had to stop, and I was just staring at the Jacksepticeye video playing on my TV without really seeing it. I was thinking, am I gonna throw up? It made my stomach hurt. I was fine, but like, holy fuck. Jail isn't good enough. Go to hell. Redditors noticed that she said this child in her imagination was a virgin, yet ended up giving her crabs, and were using that as a means to reinforce the notion that this was purely fantasy and not something that actually happened. I'm not going to argue against that, but I am going to say she wrote, I think he was a virgin. I must also point out, in the previously shown interview, she already mentioned her love of 15-year-old boys as well as Puerto Rican boys. My worry is that the sexual fantasy was about a boy she actually knew. That's purely speculation, of course. But just because it's happening exclusively in your head doesn't mean you aren't an abomination for it. The fact that she has expressed similar thoughts more than once and thought it was okay enough to publicly share says a lot. I also dipped my toes into her dating history. This frightening pattern of age gaps has been very much apparent in her life. Guy Ritchie, who she married at the end of 2000. They were 42 and 32. Not crazy. Once you're over 30, a decade isn't that special. Brahim Zaibat, who she reportedly began dating in September 2010. In 2010, they were 52 and 24. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now that's weird as hell. That is young enough to be her child. If you're gonna shame the abundance of men who do this, there's no reason for nobody to be batting an eye when Madonna does. Tamora Steffens, 2014. He was 27 that year, she was 56. Ala Malik Williams, reportedly dated for 3 years beginning in 2019. He was 25, she was 61. As recently as last week of this year, 2026, Madonna is reportedly dating Akeem Morris. He is turning 30, she is 67. Thank you, People Magazine, for your assistance. Age is, in fact, not just a number. It's creepy, whichever way you spin it. I'm not telling anyone what to think, and as always, never flinging around accusations. This simply piqued my interest, and well, controversy is what I do, and this is certainly controversial and repulsive. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How young do you think the next one will be? And I will see you in the next video. Hopefully it's not as icky.